What's going on YouTube? Nathan back with another video presentation. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe. By now, my video on Chad Wheeler and Bradley Beal should have premiered. Well, the Chad Wheeler I just uploaded. The Bradley Beal video should have premiered by now. I'm talking about Curt Schilling not getting in the Hall of Fame this year. And this was the first time, honestly, since 1960, where nobody was selected to the Hall. Really, since 2013. Honestly, if I'm saying that, if it's 2013, I'm saying that right. It hasn't been selected to the Hall. You know, as I'm looking at this list, Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Scott Rowland, Omar Vizquel, Billy Wagner, Todd Helton, Gary Sheffield, Andrew Jones, Manny Ramirez, Sammy Sosa, Andy Pettitte, Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter, Bobby Abreu, Tim Hudson, Ramirez, LaTroy Hawkins, Barry Zito, AJ Burnett, Michael Kadire, Dan Herron, Nick Swisher, Shea Victorino. Now, I believe from Armas, Ramirez, Hawkins, Zito, Burnett, Kadire, Herron, Swisher, Victorino, I believe if it's poor voting, you're eliminated. If that's how it works, I don't know. And it was actually their well, I mean, most of these guys are group watching. We can. I'm sorry. I'm looking at these. I'm looking at this list, and I'd say maybe. I'm trying not to laugh. I'm sorry. Scott Rowland, Omar Vizquel, Billy Wagner, Todd Helton, Gary Sheffield, Andrew Jones, Mark Burley, I can see why no one got in. And now, personally, Curt Schilling got 285 votes, 71% of the vote. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens essentially got, I'm just going to round it up, 62% of the vote. Scott Rowland got 53. Omar Vizquel got 49. Billy Wagner, 46. Todd Helton, 45. Andrew Jones, 40%. Andrew Jones, 34. Jeff, and again, I'll leave it in the description for y'all to see. Curt Schilling, I honestly and truthfully, in my personal opinion, outside of Todd Helton, and I understand, and Todd Helton to me has a strong case. Larry Walker got in the Hall of Fame, so should Todd Helton, and I can see the argument for why some don't think Todd Helton's a Hall of Famer, but in my book, he's a Hall of Famer. But that's another video for the day. Billy Wagner, 422 saves, 7-time All-Star. Okay. Fine. Omar Vizquel doesn't have 3,000 hits, but he has 2,877 hits. Curt Schilling. I cannot stress this enough. 3-time World Series champion. 6-time All-Star. I believe he's 11-2 in the postseason. And remember, I think he ties for like 300 strikeouts, like having 300 strikeouts in the season. NLCS MVP. Arguably formed one of the best duos in baseball with Randy Johnson in Arizona. He doesn't have 300 wins, but he's a member of the 3,000 strike club. And he only gets 71% of the vote. Now, I have said this in many videos, or quite a few videos, particularly when it comes to sports. Sports and politics do not go hand in hand. They just don't. It's like oil and water. Meaning, we all know why Curt Schilling's not going. It's not in the Hall of Fame. Politics. It's what he has said off the field. You know, particularly the statements, the comments he's made with, you know, he's was advocating for lynching journalists, and then the chaos that happened in Washington, he supported that, and then other things that he has said that makes you that it goes really like, I'm not surprised that's Curt Schilling. Just like Aubrey Huff, for example. The things Aubrey Huff says on his Twitter, okay, that it doesn't phase because that's Aubrey Huff. The same thing with Curt Schilling. But Curt Schilling, on his Facebook post, and I have the quote here, I'm reading the article, ESPN.com. Quote, I will not participate in the final year of voting. I am requesting to be removed from the ballot. I defer to the Veterans Committee and men whose opinions actually matter and are who in a position to actually judge a player, Schilling wrote. I don't think I'm a Hall of Famer, as I've often stated, but if the former players think I am, then I'll accept that with honor. Then he goes on by criticizing the writers in the Hall. I can say at this point I am mentally done. I know math and I know trends, and I know that I will not obtain the 75% threshold for introduction, Schilling wrote. As I have stated often over the past years to those I have spoken with, in my heart, I am at peace. Nothing, zero, none of the claims being made by any of those writers hold merit. Whatever is mine as a player, it will be the truth, and one I earned for better or worse, he continued. The game has made it clear it does not want me back, and that's fine. And the game owes me exactly nothing. I gave it a billion more times than it took me, and I will forever be deeply in debt to it. Well, I disagree with that last part. It's not the game. It's really more, you really should be directing it to the writers. Because let's just call it what it is. A lot of those writers, their careers were made off of guys like Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. Some of them think they're God. And it bothers me that, for example, I have a question. Ken Griffey Jr., arguably one of the best baseball players, 5-tool players of this in my opinion. How does he not get unanimously voted? Mariano Rivera, I believe, got like 99%. Is one of the best pitchers in the game. Ken Griffey, I kind of get it with his performance in Cincinnati because of injuries. Frank Thomas. Now, next year, according to ESPN, on the list of Hall of Famers, hold on, where's it at? Alex Rodriguez, David Ortiz, Jimmy Rollins, Mark Teixeira, Ryan Howard, Tim Lincecum. I'm letting you know right now, Ryan Howard is not getting in. David Ortiz and Alex Rodriguez. Listen, let me say this. My personal opinion. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, I know, took some form of performance enhancing drugs. In my opinion, I know they did. Barry Bonds, let's just call it what it is. Barry Bonds' attitude with the media, it's documented. A shitty relationship with teammates. Jeff Kent, when he was in Pittsburgh, it's all documented. Roger Clemens, when he was on Capitol Hill, it's all documented. Again, because if they get in the Hall of Fame, Alex Rodriguez would be in the Hall of Fame. And it would not faze me. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets in unanimously. I doubt it, but I have a feeling he'll get in there. If Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens get in there. If that's the case, then Sammy Sosa needs to get in and Mark McGwire needs to get in. Because to me, the message you're sending to younger generations who strive to be great and one day see themselves in the Hall of Fame, you're giving them the okay. Well, it's okay to cheat the game by tarnishing, records X, Y, and Z. Barry Bonds' home run record to me is tarnished. That record, to me, the true home run leader is Hank Aaron. Roger Clemens, Manny Ramirez, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, all tainted. But what was interesting, and essentially what I mean is, that doesn't say that doesn't help when you already have the audience of baseball fans, particularly kids, viewership diminish. Because again, to me, to get in the Hall of Fame, and that list I read, and the guys put that on the next year's list, all great ball players. But there should be a standard. I can't just put everybody in the Hall of Fame. Listen, Tim Hudson and Barry Zito, along with Mark Mulder, were another version of John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, and Tom Glavine in Oakland. They formed one of the best pitching trios in the game. But in my opinion, they're not Hall of Famers. Todd Helton, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer. He put up those numbers in Colorado, Coors Field. Curt Schilling doesn't have 300 wins, but he has a few World Series and arguably is one of the best postseason pitchers. Hall of Famer. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, cheaters, now Hall of Fame. Alex Rodriguez is not a Hall of Famer. Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, Hall of Famers. But what's interesting, and what caught my ear, I was watching First Take. It was after the vote, and Molly Karam had said something that raised my eyebrow. And she said, it's funny. I'm basically quoting. She said, and yet Major League Baseball has Kennesaw Mountain Landis, a guy in the Hall of Fame, who failed to integrate the game of baseball. Basically labeling him a racist. Now, let me say this. If you've done research on Kennesaw Mountain Landis, he was the first commissioner for Major League Baseball. And if you remember, he came in at a time where public confidence was at a low because why? Gambling had virtually run the sport. That World Series with the Black Sox, let's call it what it is. They threw that game. It's clearly evident. Now, was he harsh? Okay, yes. Particularly guys like Shoeless Joe Jackson, who still has failure to this day, that's trying to fix his name. All what he's trying to do was strengthen the integrity of the game and restore public confidence in the game by saying, listen, this gambling nonsense is going to cease to exist. Now, I have a question. Now, when he came into the league, at the time, there were 16 Major League Baseball teams. I'll tell you what those 16 teams were. The St. Louis Browns, now the Baltimore Orioles, the Detroit Tigers, the Yankees, Red Sox, Indians, Athletics, White Sox, Washington Senators, the Cardinals, Pirates, Reds, Cubs, Giants, Boston Braves, Brooklyn Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies. Those 16 owners, right? Don't you think it would be wise if you would have asked them, well, how come you didn't sign a black baseball player on your team? Because Kennesaw Mountain is like Roger Goodell. He's essentially the voice for the owners. He had a plan to integrate the game of baseball, but he died in 1944 before that plan happened. And his successor went through with it. Jackie Robinson in the spring of 1947 was signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers. And Larry Doby for the Cleveland Indians. But before Kennesaw Mountain, Landis Mountain ever became commissioner, when you have guys the name of Cap Anson, by today's standards, white supremacists, who didn't want to have his minor league team because he was playing against he was going against an African American team. He didn't want that. He said he would threaten to sit out the game, in which he didn't do. Trish Speaker, Ty Cobb, even though it's unconfirmed, but Ty Cobb has according to what I have read, and later years after his career, has said he's seen nothing wrong with integrating the game of baseball. But let's call it what it is. In the Hall of Fame, doesn't matter what sport, you have racists, bigots, drug abusers. What is exactly the Hall of Fame supposed to be? Now, not everybody's a racist and not everybody's a bigot, but you have some currently in football, baseball, hockey, don't matter. But it's kind of funny. She brought that up and failed to bring up Bud Selig's in the Hall of Fame. Bud Selig, wasn't he commissioner at the time when he and the owners turned a blind eye with PED usage, particularly in the 90s with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa? Ain't that the same Bud Selig? He's in the Hall of Fame, right? But look at, honestly, the way Major League Baseball is today is because he didn't put a stance on it because he and the owners made money off of that. But once again, you're going to go the route of, well, he didn't want to bring a black baseball player into the league, so we're going to label him a racist, and you don't really know what his plan was because he died of a heart attack. And on top of that, when you had the Negro Leagues formed up until 1946 when it was dissolved, each of those teams were owned incrementally. If I'm saying that word right. If I'm saying it right, I apologize. But you know what I mean. Those 16 teams from Major League Baseball at the time could have signed a black baseball player. But no one questions those owners. Are they not considered racist? I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make is, if we're going to call things out spade to spade, let's be fair and balanced. The Hall of Fame baseball writers, I've never taken them seriously, and I will never take them seriously. They act like they're gods. They say they know the game of baseball, but 71%. But for those that didn't vote for Curt Schilling, can you please explain to me what is your criteria of getting into the Hall of Fame? Why do you consistently vote Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire when you know that, not Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, when you know that they in some way have cheated? Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa's names are still on the ballot. I just want to have that question answered. Curt Schilling, I hope his name is still on the ballot for next year. I really hope that it was just in the heat of the moment. I think he's a Hall of Famer, even though I don't agree with some of the things that come out of his mouth. But again, I said it in the Chad Wheeler video. You're under a microscope 24/7. Outside the field, you're being watched. What you're saying on social media is being watched. And unfortunately, that matters. I hate, and I think that's unfair, because it's what's in between those lines. Brett Favre, even though his prima donna attitude, is a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer. Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. Phillip Rivers, in my opinion, should be a Hall of Famer of what they've done in between those lines. Ray Lewis, excuse me. Some people were going like, well, why is you letting a murderer in the Hall of Fame? We don't really know what happened that night. But again, you have racists, you have bigots in the Hall of Fame before Ray Lewis's time. That's what you have. So the Hall of Fame, to me, it needs to be fixed. The voting needs to be fixed. Plain and simple. But I'm looking at the numbers. And for the most part, I would say Gary Sheffield, to me, is a Hall of Famer, even though he may have taken some type of PED. But I think for the most part, he was clean, in my opinion. He's a Hall of Famer. Todd Helton, come on, Hall of Fame. Billy Wagner, But Curt Schilling, come on now. Now, I will say this. Next year is going to be tough. I think David Ortiz is a Hall of Famer. Alex Rodriguez, if Barry Bonds gets in next year, Roger Clemens gets in next year, they're Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer too. And that pains me to say it. Tim Lincecum is not a Hall of Famer. Ryan Howard is not a Hall of Famer. Jimmy Rollins, you got a case. You had a case for J-Dog. Scott Rowland, I'm a fan of Scott Rowland. I am. It's tough. But I feel like there needs to be a criteria. I need to know what the criteria is on the field that qualifies you to be a Hall of Famer. I don't want to know. Besides outs, what it's in between those lines. What validates you as a Hall of Famer? The same thing I will say with Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but yet because of his relationship with the media, politics held him back in the Hall of Fame. Even though I was not a fan of him going to his alma mater, University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, I didn't like that, but I understood it. Question, I'm going to leave it again. What is the criteria in between the lines when you're on that field, that court, as qualifies you as a Hall of Famer? I'm going to leave it at that. I will leave these articles in the description for y'all to read. All 3 videos, I'm hoping we'll have the premiere before Friday morning. But with that being said, I hope everybody has a good evening. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Stay safe. Super Bowl is next Sunday, the 7th. If I'm saying that right, is it the 7th? Let me look at my calendar. Yes, it's the 7th. Y'all also can let me know y'all predictions. But any other topics you guys want me to talk about, please feel free to leave them in the description, in the comments below. I want to get y'all thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Curt Schilling's a Hall of Famer? Do you think they got it right? Who do you think who got snubbed? Who do you think should be a Hall of Famer? But with that being said, I'm out. Peace. Stay out.